boom, do it.
That's Natalya Lopareva, and you're watching Break It Down Show with Pete. And
Yeah.
Pete, happy birthday. I've
Oh,
got
thank you. It is my birthday today, everybody, and it's super fun to be able to have a show on my birthday. I always try to celebrate part of my birthday with having a show, and so you and I are the lucky recipients of my 53rd birthday show. So happy birthday to me, and happy birthday to anybody else today. James Earl Jones, Muhammad Ali, Betty White are some notable people, and it's a silly thing celebrating your birthday. But if you don't do it, then what are you going to celebrate, right? If you can't celebrate yourself a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's an important day to celebrate the birth and to the lives of people. And it's a great day to think about yourself. So I'm so honored that you decided to have an early morning show for you on your birthday. You woke up so early just to have to talk to me about what we
Yeah,
both.
yeah, it is like these things are magical because we get to spend time. Look, we're both in California, and had I known, maybe I would have come up a day or two early, and we would have done this. But I have stuff to do down here in Southern California, anyhow. But the ability to share time and space to talk about your project, to really like, I'm having coffee right now with my Plaza mug, and we get to look at the future, and someone's idea becomes a reality and becomes a business, and it becomes something that is part of our day-to-day life. These are miracles. As you know, it's super hard to do what you're doing. It's super hard to get as far as you've gotten. You've still got to go out and do more work. Oh, and by the way, female founder, that's a thing. And so all of this stuff, and we get to have this conversation right now on my birthday. Come on. You know, what does it take for the stars align to make that happen? We're just here for a blink of an eye, and we get to have this magic moment. So I'm super stoked to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you, Pete. Thank you. And I followed your shows, and I absolutely love what you do. And you're doing a fantastic job to be able to talk about us and about all the innovations and all the founders out there that one day they wake up, they have ideas, and they would do anything possible and impossible to
Yeah,
make it
yeah.
and be passionate about it and sharing the stories. So I admire you for this and for the important role that you do. Yeah.
Let's.
Thank you.
This is great. So your company's called Algorized. Everybody should look down below. There's the link down there, and go check out what they do. And we're going to talk a lot about the function of the machine in a minute here. But what you're talking about, we often skip over in the world of interviews and describing things. It's great to be inspired, and you know this from working in your business. Great ideas are common. The work after the great idea, can you have more than one great idea? Is your idea actually great when you test it against things? Can you rally people and resources around you? Can you manage to wear 15 hats at one time and slowly make enough or bring enough money in that you can hand hats off to other people? It's all these things that have to happen that have nothing to do with developing your machine, right? Like, yeah, okay, yeah, writing code, that's adorable. Like, that's the easy part. Now you have to get a million people to care about it. Like that, now that's a hard task. So when you look at all of the tasks that you have to do that aren't working on the technology side, what are those things you're like, man, how in the world am I going to figure out how to do X?
Well, this is the thing that I think if once you have an idea, then I'm sure you will have many ideas for it, and maybe the first idea that you have might not be the greatest idea, and and you would pursue it and you would think it's a great idea, but you grow through that, and then you start building some other ideas afterwards. I'm a stronger believer is that all of us, we are creators and builders, and how strong we believe in what is our mission here on this planet and what we want to do. So the this idea, specific one, it's not from natural evolvement on the first one, and it's interesting things that was you start with something, and you think it's you doing something right and everything, and then how this changes, how the people that you start engaging team and the people around you, and then they come up even with greater ideas than what you had initially, and then your initial idea from where you started to where we are today and what we're actually doing, it's actually kind of taken a different turn, like you like,
Mm.
but much larger scale, because you are able to engage people around you, and I I'm so grateful that I'm working with great people and a team and engineers, and they're passionate. We sometimes like fight with each other with ideas and challenge each other. And it's great. I think the biggest thing, once you have, from the moment of having an idea, your time of kind of your own success, where you measure it, is that when you just sit back in the meetings and you see other people, like brainstorming and bringing things together, and like,
Yes.
just you feel that energy in the air. And for me, that's the greatest thing, to be able to see that. And you just feel like so happy, I guess.
I want to spend some time in this moment because, like, so I've built this ridiculous show, right? And I've had all of this success and all of these, there's all kinds of things that I still need to fix. And I get down on myself about it because I want it to be better. But I look back and I'm like, holy shit, 1,500 episodes, all these incredible people, whatever they've done, whether they've started a company or they've sold hundreds of millions of records, right? Like,
Yeah.
whatever it is, I've built this thing, right? And my buddy John, we founded this thing together. And there are always ideas and concepts. John will want to change something about the show. And I'm like, that's great. Let's do that. How can I help you do it? When is the next meeting when we'll talk about how the progress is going on it, right? And when we realize is what we want to do and what we have to do and what we get to do, those three things don't hardly ever align, And so it's like, what do we have to do? Okay, great. We have to do 1, 2, and 5. Um, what do we need to do? Well, we got to do these other things, and we're not doing those. And now, what do we want to do? Well, forget that. There's no time for that anymore. And you can quickly use up all of your time, money, resources, people, and you really have to. You've got to, as the boss, you've got to keep people focused. Like, yes, that's a great idea. That's an idea for 5 years from now, maybe, right? And so, trying to keep everybody on a timeline, but also being flexible enough to say this is a worthwhile pivot. This is worthwhile for our resources. Talk about that aspect of what you do as the boss.
Yeah. No, that's, well, in my company, I don't really see, they call me a boss. I think they're just really doing that to make me feel a bit. I don't really see
Yeah.
myself as a boss. Like, literally, I just let the creativity of people to, I actually, my role is to encourage everybody in the team to be like the owner of what they do, like take a full ownership, to really stand out and say and speak and challenge, especially at the early stage of the startup. This is so important because that's a freedom that you have, and you take your own path in terms of development of the product and solution, and then you just go and talk passionately. Like, we started with Algorized. It's our natural involvement because we first built a product in the alarm business and security business, and that product was so different in the market. We used the sound to detect the early break-in. So like we would, like through the sound, we could see that when somebody's trying to break in the door and the window, and we didn't have any additional sensors. So we actually made the sound of the natural things to work. So from that point, we then said, well, what's next? And for us, we really so much strongly driven by the people safety element. So we would do anything that would protect people's lives or improve quality of lives. And so these are the values that we share as a people. We have got 7 different values that we share, and one of them is like pioneers. We would, have a strong sense of ownership, like we own it, like, or we're humble, we're respectful, we understand the size of the what we're actually doing. So those are the things that when I select people, we'll go first through the sharing the values and see how each person would position against those values. And then the Algorized is the natural evolvement of what we decided to do, how to protect people's lives. And we've taken on a very challenging mission, although there wasn't like a huge, strong market for it, but we knew that by doing what we're doing, we would save people's lives. And this was to address the rescue missions. And the challenge there was to be able to find people or see people through the walls. And that's what we did it. We didn't know which technology to use. We didn't have any idea which frequencies was, what we're going to go for. So there was a lot of trial and error. And, being in Switzerland is a fantastic ecosystem for startups to develop. You've got encouragements from the government, and they put you in contact with universities. So, And you kind of start elaborating that. And so when we launched the product, last year was a minimum viable product. We just had a prototype ready, and reached out to a number of businesses, and we said, well, this is what we do. We detect people, watch distance, what speed they're moving. We can see through the walls. We can see your heartbeat and breathing at a distance as well. And this is where the major pivot happened, is that the major industries worldwide says, hey, I am also trying to solve this people safety problem. And this is very critical for us. So if you look, for example, at an automotive, there's how to find a child in the car, the driver, like monitoring the risk of the drivers in the trucks. They said, we have the same problem. Come and talk to us about how you're solving this problem. And that's how the major pivot happened, because from the small idea, then you just started industries joining and realized that we're solving not only a problem for a specific application, but for many applications, whether it is consumer electronics or automotive, industrial applications, for the heavy machinery, very dangerous tools where you put the sensor and it just will stop working for the maintenance when it detects a person. So we realized actually this, and then it just kind of starts growing, and the natural pivot really happens, and it's all the creation of the team, basically, not really, it wasn't like really pushing. It actually was so, the development of technology, I think because we were looking more at solving the problem. And so that's why the technology was just a natural thing. So we decided to, for our application, use the ultra-wideband frequencies. At that stage, that frequency wasn't known. So if 5 years ago we talk about ultra-wideband, nobody would know. Today you say, well, it's ultra-wideband, and everybody say, well, it's great, but the chip manufacturers, the OEMs, they say, well, we want to know more about this technology. It seems to be an interesting development. So it's so impressive to see how everything just starts unveiling in the sense. And I'm so happy about it, to see that now so many industries joining us, and partners and investors, and everybody's talking about our technology. I'm talking to you. You invite me for a show, so it's great.
It is great. And I want to spend a little bit more time on this, because this point of view, this perspective that you get to see. So you're in a meeting and people are engaging and they're collaborating and they're arguing in a healthy way. And you guys are you're fighting this machine. Like, how do we make sure this thing is the right idea? How do we make it better? And you get to pull back as the boss, whether I'll put my new battery in, just hang in with me there. As we look at all these things that we have to sort out, we're trying to look at your company, and you realize it becomes something bigger than you, right? And it becomes this collection of all of these wonderful minds. Talk about those moments when this does happen, and you get to say, hey, this is my company doing what it's supposed to do, and it's remarkable.
Well, everything starts from the moment where you start, you change in your mindset, and you're not addressing the technology and how the technology can fit into the products, but you kind of, you've put a focus of what you're trying to solve as a problem. I mean, everybody's saying is that, what's your problem you're trying to solve? But it's more the saying is that, okay, what exactly do you want to do? And we were clear that we said we want to save people's lives, right? Some companies are on the mission for the saving the oceans and everything, but the life is such a, we can make several mistakes in life, right? And you have second chance, maybe third chance, but you have only one life. You don't have second life, right? And the moment you realize that, and then you start building technology. I mean, and today with technology aspect, you can do so much, like absolutely everything. And you can learn even how to code. You can, you can, if you really want to do anything, that technology is today it's such a great tool to be able to realize your ideas. And so the most important thing in everything is to make sure that you apply technology in the right way. You're not really, so we're building algorithms, we're building the code AI, right? And we're building, like, we have the machine learning running, and you realize that you have lots of eureka moments, right? And then you start like going through all these things. You're like, oh my God, I've seen that. But then you just kind of, and then, okay, I'm gonna park that for now. right? It's great. So but
Mhm.
you get excited about it. Once, okay, no, but this is not, again, and you compare against your initial goals. Like, does it help us to solve, how we can detect your heartbeat and breathing? If anything, like anything outside, okay, that's great, but we're gonna park that. So it's like enchanted world out there that you can, use the technology for so many applications. And yeah.
I've spoken with a lot of founders, and it always strikes me as look, it is. I'll just be honest. It's disconcerting sometimes because you guys live in, I'm going to say, a fantasy world where all of these things are possible, right? And it's wonderful and beautiful. And then you step back, like with Chat GPT now, and the AI artists and everything. Like, yes, this is great. We can all create something, and this is good. But is it all good, right? And from studying ethics, and I've published peer-reviewed papers on ethics, so I can talk with some authority about this. Ethics get really hard, and so our intention and our ethics aren't always in alignment, especially once you go down the road. So, as you create this machine, in some building somewhere, someone is creating a well-intentioned, but in reality, a Frankenstein, right? And so you build this monster that you love, and you hope that it does good things. But again, as the boss, as you're looking at this, how do you hold yourself accountable? How do you build this thing and understand that, gosh, there's a real risk that this machine will create? Yeah, and in your case, maybe people are overreaching in terms of privacy denial, right, or something like that. I don't know, and I'm not trying to pick at your product. I'm just saying there is this scale where there's the good and there's the bad of technology.
Well, remember, who build technology are humans. We build technology,
Hmm.
right? So the code you write, the conditions you put, the how you direct the machine for learning, at the end is built by humans, right? So it's important. Like, my role as the CEO and the founder is continue communicating to everybody in the
Mm.
team and the world, is that the reason why, and inspire people to, when build something, to build for a cause, like for the
Hmm.
positive cause. And they understand the communication is a key, especially at the early stage when you start building something,
Hmm.
right? You can build a Frankenstein, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is that, what's it for? What's the purpose? So I would just keep constantly communicating and keep constantly thinking every time you put a line in the code, or
Yeah.
you release a new feature. You would say, does it get us closer to this initial original cause, or we're staying away? Technology is an interesting thing, but we cannot live without technology today. It's actually, it is saving our lives today. Today you have in the fast responders, in the hospitals, the machines, the AI actually saves many people's lives. And we cannot live without it. We're using technology to communicate, right? So to connect to each other. But before, it was very strange for us to communicate like this over video. But now we are able to convey the passion or stories, tell the stories using the just video.
Yeah, we're leaning on technology right now. You and I've got a digital camera, an encoder that allows my computer to talk to my camera. I mean, it's all around. I've got hearing aids in my ears and Bluetooth headphones.
I know.
I'm a cyborg. You
You're a
know,
cyborg, exactly. You see.
and
Yeah.
there are people that study the anthropology of the modern cyborg. Like it's part of what they do to try to understand us so that we can know who we are and where the weaknesses are, because again, like ethics are easy to project but awfully hard to measure. And sometimes when you have someone else, like part of what I did when I was working in combat zones was I would look at what was the impact of what we were doing. Was this working? And female empowerment was a big thing. And I looked around and I'm like, it's absolutely unethical to do female empowerment in Afghanistan because we're not taking it seriously. And so if you want to fix that machine, it's like, well, what does taking it seriously look like? And you move forward, but we can't even have the conversation, which proves my point that it is unethical to project something ethical in this unethical place. War is a hard thing to sort out ethics. It's not.
It is.
I don't think it's as complex for you guys in your company, but that is how hard ethics are. Is like when you look around, you're like, is this working? Is this a good thing? And then something like ISIS comes along and takes Twitter and weaponizes Twitter. You're like, well, that wasn't why we built this thing. And so they can Frankenstein your wonderful machine and turn it into something evil. And
Mm.
it's just such an interesting thing to think about, like a thought exercise as we do get further down the line. Like no doubt about it. In our lifetimes, in the very 20 years ago, DARPA didn't even have their first self-driving car competition. And now there are cars driving down canyon roads driven by robots. And that's only going to be more and more and more. And so, what does that look like 20 years in the future? What does Algorized look like 20 years in the future? And you're like, wow, this is a totally different outcome than we thought. Hopefully, it's a wonderful outcome and we're all super happy. But, someone's always trying to take advantage of a situation to improve their condition.
I think about it every day.
Mm,
I think about, because being in touch with technology, especially everything related with the person, with putting human in the center of attention. So I think about it every day, and and I've seen how our company pivoted from in the question of a couple of weeks, right, and how things just can take off very fast, from basically being working in the labs to being talking to so many industries at the same time.
mm,
And I realized that your initial idea will be transformed, and it's okay to be transformed. And as long as it is, and it's our roles as people, to drive this technology in the right way. And that's
yeah.
why it's like I'm, building community and people around, communicating, participating in these type of things, because it's I think it's so important. I definitely founded the company, and I don't want to bring any harm, right? Like as any
Yeah.
founder of this type of technology, you just want to build something for the good cause. Um,
Yeah. And I want to get into what Algorized does in a second here, but I just, I want to focus some of this thing on how you look at this and who you are and everything. So one of the reasons why I'm talking to you is because the PR person that I'm working with, Karen, said, hey, I've got a bunch of female founders going to CES. Are you interested? And I'm always interested in female founders. But are you a female founder or are you just a CEO founder badass of a company that's changing the world and saving lives? I mean, how important is the female aspect?
I'm probably not really the best example of the female founder, because I don't see myself as a female, right? Like, I would see myself more as a person. I'm a mother, right? I've got two children,
Right.
that's for sure. I'm I do think differently. Not because I think I'm a female, because I've got children, I've got family, I've got dogs, cats, and all the things. That's for sure. You kind of need to be, looking at, when you take a decision, you need to look at all the aspects together. I think that's definitely an
Mhm.
aspect of, especially one decision making. So you kind of need to take very fast decisions, but get as maximum information and consider all possible outcomes in very short time. So I think those are, you kind of train over time. But I don't really see myself as a female founder. I see more with a team. Just I like diversity. I embrace diversity. I
Yeah.
it's more. I like working with people of different age. We've got in the team, we're a startup, but we've got people that are like 60 years old that working with us, and it's fantastic.
Mhm.
So we've got different nationalities, different people. They speak different languages, different beliefs, and different diversity. I think it's more. I see myself as the CEO and founder of a diversified company, like very like diversity empowered company, because that's where you've got the great ideas that were born. And
Yeah.
we are kind of freaks at the end. We're kind of really like, we're really outliners. So but which that's the part of who we are, and that's what we need to build, and that's how we build things as well, differently. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked the female question is, and yesterday we had Cecile May on the show. I don't know if you know Cecile, but part of the same group of founders at CES. And it's like, I want to ask this female question because it is important. Like, I don't want to I'm not a female, right? But if someone said, "Oh, you're a female founder," like, knock that crap off. Am I good at my job? That's what I want to be good at. I don't want anybody to say, "Well, you're a lady, so you have this leg up." Like, no, no. I want to be in the pit, working as hard as anybody else, and I want to compete with every my CEO founder peers. And I'm going to give it my damnedest, not because I'm a woman, but because I'm a badass and I'm motivated. Like, I don't follow someone because of their gender. I follow someone because they have a vision, and I'm inspired by it, and I want to lend a hand. And that's kind of how I see it. But that's why I asked the question, because that's also not my business. I'm not a female founder. I'm not going to be a female founder. And so I want to understand what this looks like. One of the things that Cecile said was like, where I am here in Switzerland, it's not like it used to be. Like, I'm respected, and people expect me to be sitting in this chair, and it's not a foreign thing anymore. She's like, but that's not the case everywhere. And so there is still work to do. So with all that said, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are more, again, I think it's more diversity. So like, it's not about being a female, but it's a part of the diversified community. So we are, I think being a female founder, so I bring a part of diversification, diversity to the company. There aren't many female founders. And, I keep asking the question, why? Well, because there are some limits? I mean, every person has got so many ideas. So the question is that,
Right.
you really want to pursue this idea. So whether you're a man, a woman, or however, what do you want to call yourself? So I worked in many startups before, and I worked with technology all the time. So I worked in very much strictly men community before. I never felt myself being. I didn't feel that issue of being a woman in this environment. I think it was more the moment you start sharing your ideas and how sure you are about what you do, your beliefs, then people forget about your age, your sex, your orientation. They just kind of start following and either share or don't share, and and then you just move along with the just growing the company. I think it probably being like a diversified company, it's a big advantage today for us. We're really hard to compare with, right? Because you have different people, you have different communities, different environments. So it's very atypical. But this is where like the stars are born. This is where the
Yeah.
brilliant ideas are born. You're in this cradle, right?
Yeah.
Where you have all these like different colors and different things, and we are not really 9 to 5ers. And if we need to work at night, work at night, work at day, work at day. The business, like the time zone, the world is flat because, it's 5 p.m. in Switzerland, it's 8 a.m. at your time. We kind of connect. So the time doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. So what you do with every minute of your time, at moments that you're spending and how present you are in that specific moment, that's what matters. And I strongly believe in that.
I love it. The time doesn't matter. It's the quality of how you use the time, right? That's a great one. I'm
It
going to
doesn't
definitely
exist.
keep that.
The time doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The time,
Yeah.
the essence of time, the minutes, the hours, this is something that we as humans, we created for us to align, right? So let's say, let's meet at 8 in the morning because we know that at
Yeah.
that moment we're going to meet, or let's go for a dinner at 7, or let's wake up at this hour. But we are the ones who created Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. In some countries, people work on Sundays, and some people. So these are the rules that we created. So many people can align and do something together as community at the same time, at the same moment. But the time as reality, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's
This is,
4 years ago, I came to this US in 2019. I was attendee, and I said to myself, one day I will be here as at the show. And then things just happened, and they called us and they invited us to participate at Swiss Tech 4 years later. Now, you think that 4 years, it's a lot of time. You would say, oh my God. But then if you look at all these little moments that you've done, like the days, they go very fast. So the
Hmm.
relevance is completely different, right? And those are the things that you also realize in reality when you start working with technologies. We don't look at time when we look at the understanding your heartbeat and breathing and other things. We don't look at time as, we just look at time as a measurement. We don't use this at all, right? If the moment you remove the time, you look at the evolvements of things, of the frequencies of the nature. This is when you realize that you can see the elements that you can analyze, or the everything can happen. So
Mm.
it's a beautiful theory out there, but I think that it's really that's how I see it.
It is, and I love the vision, of CES, and we're going to be here. And you're right. If you said, "Hey, you have 4 years to accomplish all of these tasks," and CES is part of the accomplishment list, like, I'm going to do all of that stuff in 4 years. Like, it would seem impossible. But then you get to work on it on day one of whatever, 1,200 days, and the next thing you know, you look around, you're like, "Shit, we're at CES." Yeah, yeah. It is.
Well,
It is an impressive pile of stuff.
and CS was never a goal for us. I
Sure.
just went there and I said, one day I'll be here.
Right.
Because CS for
Right.
us, for me, CS, this is where it's changed over years, right? So before you
Mhm.
had lots of different, today you have a lot of automotive that's presenting. So it's evolving things, but that's where you see the future and what's going to
Mhm.
come. So being at CS and being a part of this future creation of so many companies and what they drive and what they believe, have exchanges with incredible people and the founders, CEOs of large companies and everything, and just to have this quality exchange to see how the future would look like. So that that was how I felt at CS like 4 years ago, and it was never a goal; it just came naturally. And it's
Yeah.
also about like setting your goal. What do you want to do in your life?
Yeah.
And the CS is just like became a milestone. So, and of course for us it was a great success. And everybody, we had 4 people. I was there 4 years ago alone. Now today I was with 4 people, and all of us were talking and representing the entire company. So it was, yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is remarkable. I was thinking as we were talking and talking about cyborgs, I am staring intently into a camera. I could look down here and look at you, but that's not aesthetically pleasing for the audience. So I have to stare at this thing. But the words are hitting me, and my brain is creating this reality through the technology that we're using. And, I guess I would much rather be in the same space as you, having coffee in real time and experiencing this face to face, eye to eye, emotion to emotion. And I just wanted to say that because we lose sight of this, right? We lose sight of, like, it is very easy for me to be 400 miles from you and to pull this off. Or yesterday was a seal in Switzerland. It's easy to do that. But the moments that we share where we're not just staring intently into a lens of a camera, right? I'm staring at the iris of the camera and focusing. It would be so much more wonderful to do that. And so, as great as technology is, we can't lose sight of these human moments that we have, because there is magic in humans being in the same space, and inspiration and all of these other things.
Those things you can
Yeah.
never replace, like the human presence of people that you really have an exchange, looking into your eyes, and having that presence of the person, or being having the presence of people that you love or people that you want to spend time with. You will never replace that with the
Yeah.
digital things. Of course, we're trying from the technology point of view to get as close as possible to this with AR and VR experience, and
Yeah.
how we're going to get these smells and senses, and that's where technology is going to, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see how technology can solve all these challenges, and this is what you could see also at CS. But as humans, I guess it depends on generations as well. So
Yeah.
if you look at the younger generations, they don't have as much dependency on the human interactions what we have, because we know what it is, and we kind of miss that. Where the younger generation, they don't know what it is. They are born with the connected, right? So
Yep.
they and the interaction for them is different. So the
Yeah.
society itself evolves, right? But interesting saying for me for the CS, I think that one thing that really touched me was how the technology today is able to reproduce the smells. And there was like one beautiful, like absolutely interesting Japanese company. They literally build this smells technology, right? So you
Uh-huh.
have the thing around you, and whatever you see, if you see the sea, and there's like these 6 nozzles, right, with different fragrances, and then so whatever you see, if you see the ocean, you would smell the ocean. You would see, then you walk in
Mhm.
the forest, you would kind of smell the forest. You cooking something, I don't know, you smell that thing. So you kind of transmitting
Yeah.
this through the technology, and it's all like coded, right? It's crazy.
Mm.
Or there's another Israeli company that's also kind of solving the smells through the glasses as well that impact on your nose. It's incredible. So, and I tested those solutions, and it does very strange things with your brain. I can tell you, it's you just it's real, but it's not real. So something is wrong. So your brain is kind of trying to connect all these little neurons together to understand what is real. You know, but I see that, but I see the forest, and I smell the
Mm.
forest. I don't see the forest. So we still go through those things through the technology adaptations as humans, I guess. But it's a part of our life today. So
It is. It is part of our life, and there are ways to make a good proxy of those things, and we are getting better at that. But it's just interesting when you look at like the direction we are going. We are looking at the younger generation. We call them, Gen Z, but really they're the digital natives. That's one of the names they use for them because they are used to this thing. And we're going to see this different world. I mean, I already feel the generational gap. I'm 53. I'm not the oldest man in the world, but I grew up in a completely different time than kids in this day. And that's not a knock. That's just a reality, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens. One of the questions I love to ask when people bring up diversity, and it's an important thing to kind of sort through is diversity and unity are antonyms, right? Not perfect antonyms, but they don't agree with one another. And you have to find a balance, I would suggest, between the value of diversity and the power of unity. Because if you go too far in one direction, you blow apart. But if you are too unified, you become too locked, right, to get anything done. So, how do you see that balance, or is there a balance required, or is diversity the best default? What are your thoughts on diversity versus unity?
we're all united in we call a company called Algorized, right? And it's our choice to come and work and do. It's our choice to do something valuable to our time, and that choice we decide based on our decisions, right? That we take every day. And the company is already unity, right? We are a team. We are following the same goal, the same mission. We share the same values, right? So that's why aligning the values, initial values, before everybody comes and joins the company. This is basically aligning with the unity, like of the community. That is a unity of things, and the
Mhm.
unity is as what is becomes a global of the diversity that is inside. You see what I mean? So the you need to be to bring the diversity to for progress, but you need to be in agreement and align with what you believe. It's like the same things. You have friends, you meet with some people you like to share lots of ideas, you connect, right? Because you create this unity, right? You kind of align with the same things, you believe in things, and you start evolving your thoughts and ideas. So that is unity, but we're different, right? So at the end, these two things, they are that some seems to be opposite, but we are united in diversity.
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
and that's how I see it.
I love it. I love these answers because it's different for everybody, and it's not something that we. When I ask this question of founders and people who create things, this is not something that you guys are slowed down by. You've really thought this through enough. Even if you haven't thought about this specific question, you are always trying to balance togetherness and inclusion. And it's like, how do we do this thing? So I appreciate that answer. One of the other things I like to talk about, and granted, right now you're on the West Coast with me, but if we were in Switzerland, it's a different world than the one here in California, right? So
Mhm.
Zurich is 1,300 miles from Kiev. 1,300 miles from where you and I are sitting is the first big city in Nebraska. So in I don't know, 17 hours, we'll call it 18 hours with a couple of stops, we could be in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, or we could be in Kiev, or a 3 hour flight from Zurich to Tel Aviv, right? And so there's these places that are completely different worlds than what Switzerland is. You can be in Hungary, you can be in Albania in the time it would take us to go from here to not even New York. And so when you think about that and like how wildly different Kiev, Albania, Tel Aviv, Tunisia, Libya, these places that are all not that far from Switzerland, it makes me think, gosh, as a company designed in Europe or as an international company, international really means something in Europe.
Well, it's there are a couple of things that well, of course, the one thing is that it is kind of we call it, I don't know, it is a shocking to be able to travel from one place to another in the States. That you realize the size of the country, really, like you see it on the
Yeah.
globe, you see the picture, but then you realize the size, and then the first thing for a European when you come here, you say, "Oh my God, they speak the same language." You
Yeah.
can communicate, right? You don't need to make all this extra effort to use your hands to communicate or learn another language because it's just so simplified, right? You're
Mhm.
communicating, you're united, you communicate, and of course you've got different aspects of living, quality of life, but you already it's a good base that you speak the same language, right? So
Yeah.
for growth of the ideas and sharing your thoughts, that's definitely it's the aspects you have, like a natural advantage. Now the Europe, we are very different in the sense because we have to speak different languages. Even if you look in
Mhm.
Switzerland, we've got 26 cantons. So the size of the Switzerland is like, we're quite very small. Like, I know
Mhm.
we small, the population is more than population of New York, right? And we have 26 different cantons and we speak three languages. Each canton it's got its own regulation. It's like a state in the States, and we've got
Mhm.
different regulations, different policies, different local uh, uh, local governments and communal governments as well. So we've got three different government systems. We are very much driven by the votes of people. So and very like open for all the new people and technologies and adaptation. Or everything is kind of decided by people, right? So any votes if you want to, for example, pass a vote, you have to get 100,000 signatures. And then once you get 100,000 signatures, you can actually vote, pass it for the vote and make people vote for this good idea or bad idea. So that really kind of encourages this freedom of the express and choice and also realization of things. It very again coming back to the same thing. So we are bound to be diversified, right? Because we
Mhm.
are born in diversity, and we Switzerland, we've got the border. In 1 hour you're in France, like a couple of hours you're in France, in 1 hour you're in Germany, Austria, Italy, right? And it's a completely different thing, different food, different currencies, different
Yeah.
way of communicating. So, and of course you want to travel, and you cannot be landlocked in the first most, so you have to kind of be
Mhm.
born and understand different cultures. I speak 6 languages, my daughters speak already 4 languages. So it's not because we're intelligent, but because it's the part of this where we are and where we live.
I love that you said that because we get down on ourselves for just speaking English, but just speaking English means you can communicate in almost anywhere on the planet. And France is the size of Texas. Switzerland is probably half the size of Maine. We don't even think of Maine as being a big state at all, and Switzerland is half of that size, right? And so you're forced to deal with things like and there's gigantic mountains all through Switzerland and Austria and northern Italy and France that make communication, a little more complex. But you're right. You can hop on a plane and in 4 hours be on three different continents, and not
Yes.
even near the edge of the continent, like deep into Africa, deep into Asia, And like Azerbaijan, is Azerbaijan an Asian country or a European country? Well, it's both, and a wildly different place than say London, you know? And
Yes.
yeah, and when you do business in these places, how do you develop the cultural chops to be able to walk in? Is you just rely on the product, or what do you do to be able to go from London to Azerbaijan to, yeah, again, Tel Aviv, totally different places.
Yeah, no, it's we are human. Like you based on your human instincts. You are humans at the end, right?
Yeah,
So so and most of the time you never talk about, like when we started our conversation, we weren't talking about the company and the product or anything. We're talking about things that we share and we believe. So that's you do the same thing.
yeah,
You go to the other countries and you try to understand their culture and what the important things are,
yeah,
what they believe, and that you, and then only after that you are able to to talk about the business. That's how we kind of adaptive to the environment. Whereas here in the States is different. So for
mhm,
example, which is very direct here because you don't need to adapt to different cultures, right? So you
yeah,
don't need to go through all that things of understanding how to communicate. So it's very clear what your ideas are understood and everything. Here you straight away go down to the point. So you kind of facilitate the communication in a very direct way. So that's why you do have a lot of acceleration process in the States, and because you don't have to go through lots of different understanding of the different environments. So there are advantages on both sides. So whether it's a
mhm,
clear communication, that's why lots of startups are here, and that's why I'm here, right? The ability of being able to schedule meetings in a second of one day. I'm meeting today with 5 different companies, you know,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
it's just like that. It's that quickly. In Europe, you need to plan in advance, and you have to plan all your trips, and you have to make sure that you go. So, I guess it's a different perception of things.
mhm,
Both places, they we kind of depend on each other. We need to have these cultural differences. We need to
yeah,
grow and build this economy, the trade between the countries. So there is always complete dependency on each economy. So but it's I guess for the constant traveler like myself and seeing so many
mhm,
places in the world, I, s- I encourage everybody to just travel and to discover the different places in the world and
yeah.
to listen to people, what they believe, to learn their languages, because that opens your mind completely. Like you would just become a different person.
Yeah, it's true, and I love the point about the understanding and entering into a different culture. That's one of the things I would have to do is like, how do you enter into this culture so you can understand it and communicate it back? And then you do see the changes in America. I believe that we look in Germany. There's a formal way of speaking, and there's like an entire way like of approaching in terms of grammar and verbs and everything else, how you address someone. And in America, it's much more informal and relaxed. And so you have these different things you have to form. In Japan, much more formal. A lot of pro-Japanese sentiment when you go there, and you can see these things that would make us uncomfortable here because these are folks on the island and they have their way of doing things, and it is very closed. It's united as opposed to say San Francisco. And you see all throughout, like when people talk and companies do their earnings, and all, you see the Silicon Valley influence. You see the dress shoes on top, tennis shoe on the bottom. You see the kind of clothes they wear. They're not wearing three-piece suits anymore. These are very important business people, and they're wearing jeans and a t-shirt and maybe a hat, in a meeting, and it's very informal. And so we do blend these cultures, but there are these differences that you have to account for. And then again, you go have a meeting in Fez, to talk about your product because you have to do that. And that is a different world. Maybe you wear a hijab, maybe you don't. So there's all these questions. I think that's fascinating. I do actually want to talk about Algorized at some point, but it's just been so interesting to get your thoughts on these things because we just skip past it so often and talk about the machine. I think you are fascinating, and what you have to sort out is fascinating. And then I'm going to throw one more cultural thing in, then I'm going to shut up and let you talk. one of the things I've learned from encountering a lot of cultures is there are truths in culture across all human cultures, and one is that we all hate cancer. We all want better things for our kids. You know, these are like truths. We all want to share our food and our hospitality with the people that come to our home or our country or whatever it is. And so you do have advantages if you can recognize these truths. And I would imagine your product allows people to empathize, like, yeah, you know what, we can all think of this disaster where sensing where humans were would be helpful, or preventing this atrocity that happens by sensing, you know, the presence of beings in general, right? And so let's talk a little bit about culture, but also slide over to the product a little bit. And what does the future look like?
Well, there is a clear need in the future to be able to protect everything what is around us and ourselves as well.
Right.
We, we see that what's happening with the planet. We see what's happening with the people. We went through the pandemics and other things. So it's actually probably the most exciting for an entrepreneur. Maybe it's bad to say, but it's the most exciting time for any founder to find a company, because you can use the technology for exactly for the good applications. And this is what this is what we do at Algorized. We build this technology and application that runs without cameras, without any uh, optical solution. We build software, right? And we embed the software on chip, on the silicon, and that software kind of brings that PhD to those sensors, to bring them intelligence, to sense people, to feel people, to know that there's a presence around. And the application of this, of course, it's vast. You've got the fast moving markets where there's clear demand for this, which is like industrial automation. Clearly, it's a the people safety in terms of the maintenance. It is a big issue for any industrial company today. The other aspects of the automotive, where the monitoring of the passengers and the heart rate and children presence. Uh, with the CAP 15 today, the 2025, all the cars should have a detector for the child in the car. Already from this 2023, in order to have a 5-star safety, you need to have the sensor. So there is obviously a clear need for the driving globally and all the organizations for the people safety element, and that's where our product fits in as well, really smoothly, because we don't really bring more sensors. We kind of like embedding this the level of the low level of the software that can allow so many companies to build applications, right? And so it's kind of multiplying, and you kind of building this element of the people safety detection, and then on this the application builders can come up with lots of different ideas of how to present this to the world. I was at Plug and Play a couple of days ago. They did a fantastic event on the mobility, and there were so many startups, and we were all talking about how to save people and protect people's safety in car. It was kind of an important thing. And I met with a lot of startups, and they said, hey, but we need your technology because we building applications, right? And we need to have that accurate detection of the breathing, so we can present that in the form of the application. So you realize that you are not only doing this by yourself, you also have lots of other startups that can use your layer to build these applications for the all the different industries. So that's how we call ourselves. I think we're truly impact at scale.
Mhm.
This has always been the goal of our company, um, and I encourage them. That's what we're always looking for partners, and I encourage everybody. So if they share the same goals, then come and talk to us, and uh, to share these ideas and how we can actually build something together. So that's where we stand as Algorized, and that's where the name comes from, right? Algorized was just because it's algorithms. It's simple as that. It's
Mm.
mathematics. It's machines. It's numbers, but transform that
Yeah.
into real application that can help the humanity. I think that's really the most beautiful part about it.
I'm a big fan of Euler. I don't, but you know about Euler, and I'm going to get a little esoteric here. But he's the father of mathematics. I mean, I know that people came before him, but he's the guy that's like, "Hey, did you guys know this?" And he's uncovered so much ground. I think if he sat down today and had this conversation with us, his mind would be blown. He's like, "Look at this silly stuff that I was discovering. You guys are using math to do anything." I mean, the power of math as a language, it would blow him away to have you hear you say these things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's we use a lot of mathematics and a lot of, and we challenge even some physics, and we challenge even like look at quantum today, right?
Yeah.
So we're kind of like we're even challenging the basics of like Newton, and it's like this the whole thing is challenged because the humanity has got this. What we do is we evolve, right? We grow all the
Mhm.
time. We learn something new. We need to progress and evolve with the life. So today, the knowledge and the access to information that we have, and the power of technology, it's a massive growth and massive development that we can really use and funnel into the right direction. So I think it's and at the end it when you see how everything works, it looks very simple, but behind it, it's the complexity that's again coming back to the discussion about unity and diversity, right? So unity will be
Mhm.
your simplicity, right? That's what you see the end result. But to get to this unity, you've got this diversity and complexity of lots of different things, the algorithms, the testing, hours of testing, going mad about things. You literally sometimes you think that the technology just overtakes your brain, and then that just comes into like natural evolvement of the final product, and yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible talking to you. Just look, you're brilliant. Hey, big news, right? Like it's obvious, but just hearing you confidently talk about, I'm pushing you pretty far, rangy wise, about you know what all these things are, culture and diversity versus unity, and oh my gosh, everything, right? And then now we're talking about math at that elite level, and I just look at where we're standing right now, and look, I'm 53 today, yay. But 30 years ago, you look at a video game compared to today, or what computers were compared to today, and 30 years just isn't that long in terms of businesses. If it takes 4 years to get a business going as far as you guys are going, think about what 30 years is. That gives you some time to really stretch out your legs, but it's still just not that long. It's amazing to think about the dawn of, the quantum science age. And, in this year, we've learned about, in the past, like, couple months, we've learned that nuclear fusion is now possible. We might be rewriting the laws of thermodynamics, which isn't supposed to be possible, right? But because we're expanding barriers so fast, we're getting past things. And so a company like Algorized that's going to be able to change how we see the world and sense it. Oh my God, and then all the people who can take your platform and say, what if we did this with sensing and understanding? And it just like, what aren't we going to see in the next 20 years is really the question. It's not what are we going to see? Anything is possible.
Yes, the no idea actually what I'm gonna see in 20 years. you know I even
Yeah.
don't know what I'm gonna see 1 year from now because the speed everything is
Yeah.
growing and evolving, and we have our product roadmap aligned for this 2023. We kind of, before I had a product roadmap aligned for 4 years, right? We'll say this, that.
Hmm.
So now we just we literally locked in our product roadmap for the next year 3 months ago, and we said that's we're going to stick to that. And
Yeah.
that's as much as we're really because we're still like in this cradles moment. Okay, we have some MVPs. We're now in the like proof of concept with industrial
Yeah.
partners, but we're still forming this technology, right? So we just can only know what's going to happen probably in the I can clearly say it was going to happen in 3 months, right? Beyond
Yeah.
that, well, and even then, there are still many things just happen in 3 months. So, but beyond that, it's going to be hard to see how the all the technologies evolve, and which
Yeah.
direction it will go for. Definitely, I mean, it will go in the right direction that we as people build, right? Because again, it's technology is something that is built by people originally, right? So some things that would put as the initial thoughts, we always put it for the good cause, and then sometimes it goes one or the other direction, and then we start building another technologies on top of that to kind of look. So, but that's the normal human evolvement, right? This is what
Yeah.
we've been doing all our lives, and 20 years from now, oh my God, Pete.
It's crazy because 10 years ago it was totally different, and oh, it's just there's so many things, and I could talk to you for another couple of hours about all this stuff because it really is remarkable the pace at which we're able to maintain our understanding and comprehension and vision. And you're right, like the horizon is just right in front of us, and this concept of an MVP, and for those that don't know, minimum viable product. And so you're looking at the very least thing your company can accomplish, and so like what could this thing really grow into? And it's not it's spherical or whatever is bigger than spherical. I've got to come up with a new word because it's not just a spectrum, it's this vertical spectrum, it's a fourth dimensional thing. I mean, who knows where we're going to end up?
Yes, no, for sure. And the choice of because when you work with the technologies, you've got lots of different developments going on, and it's always the what you're going to disclose to the market, which you call it like a minimum viable product, which you believe is the
Yeah.
one's gonna like take off. And but what we work in today, you probably will see it in life in 4 years from now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And some things we will just not release, right? We'll still
Yeah.
keep it in the like cradle stage, and we'll keep that for using other things. So and
Yeah.
and always we're releasing now two features, which is people detection at speed and the ranging through the obstacles, and the feature is that about breathe and heart rate from the distance, right, using the same type of technology, right, the same frequencies. But why we're releasing this now? Because we believe that the market is ready now. We believe
Yeah.
that automotive is ready. We believe that there's so many machines are in the industrial applications that need to and protect people, right? So and
Yeah.
this is where the market today. So you kind of release those minimum viable products that would solve
Mm.
those problems today, and then keep on working on the other things, like keep every day keep on. And it's an interesting thing is that what you see today as a market sees and what you actually see in the company and all these ideas we're working on, there are like uh,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. I love this environment. I love working. I love working with all sorts of things like hardware, software, firmware,
Yeah.
applications, like different layers. Love it. It's fantastic. Definitely.
It's just it's you hate to say it boggles the mind because it's so cliche, but it does. It's like wow. As you're talking about all these things, I'm clocking on all these different things that someone is going to be working on, and that sensing technology, and like you said, cars and gosh, everything, right? And it's just remarkable. And look, everybody, this is Natalia. Her company's called Algorized. Go down below. You see that's the link. Check out that link for the demo, and you're going to have your mind blown. And then here's the website, Algorized. And look, if you're like, I want to have $1 million idea, go look at what they're doing and then build your machine on top of their technology. And then presto changeo, you've got the opportunity to work with Natalia and her crew to make something really magical. The future is just it's so crazy bright for you all. I'm so excited. I don't want to take any more of your time, and I do want to try to get together when we're in California at the same time. But
Definitely.
thank you so much for coming on and sharing my birthday with me and talking about your incredible company. What do you want to say in closing?
I think that the it's very simple. Every AI company should put humanity in the center of its development, and keep on looking at what the products you're going to release today that can make a major impact today and not 4 years from now. And this is what we're trying to do, and that's what we are doing with Algorized.
I love it. I love it. All right, stand by 1 second. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly.